It was a warm Los Angeles afternoon when Elena Morales' life changed forever. She was 28, full of dreams, and always on the move. The kind of woman who laughed with her whole heart and believed that tomorrow would always be kinder than today. She worked as a dance instructor for kids, bright colors, tiny shoes, and laughter filled her studio every morning. It was her escape from the noise of the world. But one Friday evening, everything she loved came crashing down. Literally, as she was driving home, humming along to an old Selena song, a delivery truck ran a red light. The sound of screeching tires filled her ears. And then, darkness, when she woke up in the hospital. Everything felt cold and still. Her mother, Rosa, sat by the bed, gripping her daughter's hand. "Elena, mi amor, you're awake." Elena tried to sit up, but she couldn't move. Panic shot through her veins. Her voice trembled. "Mom, my legs. Why can't I feel my legs?" Rosa couldn't speak. Her tears said everything. A voice broke the silence. Calm, steady, professional. "Miss Morales," said Dr. Adrian Vega, the neurosurgeon on duty. "You were in a severe accident. We did everything we could. Your spine suffered significant trauma." He hesitated, meeting her frightened eyes. "You may not regain movement below your waist." Those words shattered Elena. Her dreams of dancing, teaching, gone in an instant. Hey there, my wonderful family and friends. Welcome back. If you're ready to dive into today's story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments where you're tuning in from. I love seeing where everyone's watching. And guess what? There's another amazing story coming your way tomorrow. One you definitely don't want to miss. Alright then, let's get started. She cried for days, refusing to eat, refusing therapy. Her students sent her cards with glitter hearts and scribbled, "We love you, Missy." But she couldn't bear to read them. Dr. Vega visited her every morning, not because it was his job, but because something about Elena's spirit tugged at him, even broken. She had light in her eyes that he couldn't ignore. One day, he brought her a cup of her favorite Mexican hot chocolate. He had asked her mom what she loved. She looked up at him, weakly smiling. "You didn't have to do that. I wanted to," he said softly. Sometimes healing takes more than medicine. From that day, something shifted. Dr. Vega would check in after every round. Sometimes just to talk about his abulous cooking, or how traffic in LA could drive anyone insane. Slowly, Elena began to laugh again, but behind that laughter was pain, and a secret hope she refused to admit. She was falling for the man who saved her life. And maybe, just maybe, he was falling too. If you were in Elena's shoes, losing everything you love in a single moment, would you let someone new into your heart again? Tell me in the comments. I'm curious how you'd handle it. Weeks passed. Elena Morales had traded the sound of children's laughter for the constant hum of hospital machines. Every morning, nurses rolled her wheelchair to the therapy room there. She would stare at her reflection in the mirrored wall. The same mirror where dancers once moved gracefully under her instruction. But now, she only saw loss. "Again," said the physical therapist, Leela, adjusting Elena's posture. Elena pushed against the bars, trying to move her legs. Nothing. The silence between them was louder than any music. Dr. Adrian Vega often observed from the hallway. Unseen, he admired her courage, the fire in her eyes, the quiet tears she tried to hide when she failed. He wasn't supposed to get emotionally attached, but something about her felt different. That afternoon, Adrian walked in, holding a clipboard that was more for show than necessity. "How's my favorite fighter doing today?" he asked. She smirked, tiredly. "Your favorite quitter, you mean?" He shook his head. "Quitters don't show up every day. Elena, fighters do." That small moment, that smile that broke through her sadness, was everything to him. As days turned into weeks, their conversations grew longer. They talked about movies, family, food, and everything in between. She told him about her childhood in East LA, how her father taught her to dance barefoot in the kitchen, spinning her around to old love songs. He told her about his father, a doctor too, who died when Adrian was just 10, leaving him to chase perfection his entire life. Under the fluorescent lights of the rehab wing, two broken hearts began to heal together. But not everyone saw it that way. One morning, Elena rolled into the cafeteria and overheard two nurses whispering, "Dr. Vega's spending way too much time with that patient." One said, "Yeah, but can you blame him? She's pretty, even with the wheelchair." Elena froze. Her stomach turned. She wheeled away silently. That night, when Adrian came to check on her, she was cold and distant. "Elena, what's wrong?" "Nothing," she said flatly, avoiding his eyes. He sighed. "You've been off since this morning. Did I do something?" She looked up at him, hurt flickering in her gaze. "You don't have to keep pretending to care, doctor. I'm not your charity case." The words hit him hard. "Elena, I don't. Please." She cut him off. "You have patients who actually need you. Go." He hesitated, then quietly walked out. When the door clicked shut, Elena buried her face in her hands and sobbed. She didn't mean to push him away. She just couldn't handle the thought of being pitied. Adrian, meanwhile, sat in his car outside the hospital for an hour, hands gripping the steering wheel, battling his own heart. He'd been alone for so long. His marriage ended 2 years ago when his wife left, saying he loved his patients more than her. Maybe she was right. But this, what he felt for Elena, wasn't professional compassion. It was something deeper, something dangerous. A week later, Elena was transferred to a new ward, her progress slow but steady. She spent nights sketching dance routines she might never perform again. Then, late one evening, the door opened. It was Adrian. He stood there holding a box. "I heard you're leaving rehab soon," he said, smiling gently. "So I brought you something." She looked inside. It was a pair of pink ballet slippers. Her breath caught. "Adrian, why?" He knelt beside her wheelchair. "Because you're still a dancer, Elena. Your body may have changed, but your spirit hasn't. You don't need legs to inspire others. You just need heart." For the first time in months, she didn't cry from pain. She cried from hope. If you were in Elena's place, would you push someone away because you fear pity? Or would you let them stay and help you heal? Tell me what you would do in the comments below. By the time autumn arrived, the city had shifted from the heat of July to a softer chill. Elena was stronger now. Her hands no longer trembled when she moved herself from the bed to the wheelchair. She could even transfer to her seat without help. Every morning, she'd catch a glimpse of Dr. Vega in the hallway, the way he always checked on her even when she wasn't on his patient list. And every time their eyes met, she felt that familiar flutter in her chest. Still, she told herself it wasn't love. He was a doctor. She was a patient. There were lines they shouldn't cross. But hearts rarely care about rules. One evening, during Elena's last week at the hospital, Adrian found her sitting alone in the therapy garden. The moonlight bathed her in silver. She looked peaceful, yet lost. He sat beside her. "You never told me what you're going to do after discharge," he said softly. She sighed. "Go home, I guess. Figure out life in a chair. Maybe teach online dance classes. I don't know." Her eyes glistened with sadness she tried to hide. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You'll find a way. You always do." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the soft hum of the city. Then she asked, "What about you, Dr. Vega? You ever take your own advice?" He chuckled. "I'm better at giving it than living it." The way he said it, low, heavy, almost regretful, made her heart ache. "Were you married?" she asked carefully. He nodded. "Was." She left. Said I was too focused on saving everyone else. He looked up at her then, eyes full of something she couldn't quite name. Maybe she was right. Elena swallowed hard. "Maybe that's what makes you who you are," she said quietly. "Some people are just born to heal others, even when they're broken themselves." Their eyes met. For a moment, everything else disappeared. The hospital, the rules, the distance between doctor and patient. It was just them. Then Adrian stood abruptly, clearing his throat. "I should go. Early rounds tomorrow." But his voice shook slightly, as if he was fighting himself. As he walked away, Elena whispered, "Good night, Adrian." He froze for a second before replying, "Good night, Elena." The next morning, A storm of whispers rippled through the hospital. Someone had taken a photo, Adrian sitting too close to Elena in the garden. By noon, his supervisor called him in. "Dr. Vega," said Chief Sanders sternly, "I'm hearing concerning things about your relationship with a patient." Adrian stiffened. "She's a friend. That's all. Then keep it that way," the chief warned. "Boundaries exist for a reason. Don't ruin your career over a story." That word, story, hit Adrian like a slap, but he nodded. Understood. He spent the rest of the day avoiding Elena. When she looked for him, he was suddenly busy or in surgery. She noticed the change. It stung more than she expected. By evening, she'd had enough. She rolled herself to his office door and knocked. He looked up from his paperwork, startled. "Elena, you shouldn't." "What did I do wrong?" she interrupted, voice trembling. He exhaled slowly. "You didn't do anything." "I did. You stopped talking to me. It's complicated." She wheeled closer. "Then uncomplicate it." He met her eyes. "If I let myself care about you, I could lose everything I've worked for." Her throat tightened. "So I'm a risk." "No," he said gently. "You're a temptation." Silence. Then tears, hers. This time, she turned away, voice breaking. "Then you don't have to worry. You'll never see me again." She rolled out before he could stop her. That night, Elena packed her things and requested an early discharge. The nurses tried to convince her to wait, but she refused. She wanted out, away from the man who made her feel alive, then reminded her she was just a patient. When Adrian found her room empty the next morning, his chest tightened. He rushed to the parking lot, scanning every car. Nothing. She was gone. If you were Dr. Vega, would you follow your heart and risk everything? Or walk away to protect your career? Drop your answer below, because things are about to get even more complicated. 6 months later, the city had moved on without her, but Elena Morales was still learning how to move through it. She'd rented a small upstairs apartment in East LA. No elevator, just narrow steps and determination. Every day she fought gravity and doubt. By now, she could transfer herself from chair to bed with ease, run an online dance channel for kids with disabilities, and smile without forcing it. Viewers sent her messages like, "Missy, you taught me not to give up." She read every one. Still, some nights, when she closed the laptop, silence wrapped around her like a weight. And in that silence, she still heard his voice. Sometimes healing takes more than medicine. Across the city, Dr. Adrian Vega had buried himself in work. He'd earned a promotion to department head, but his smile had vanished with it. His colleagues said he'd become colder, more clinical. They didn't know he kept a small box in his desk drawer. Inside it, a pair of pink ballet slippers. One rainy Thursday, destiny decided they'd hidden from each other long enough. Elena was guest speaking at a community fundraiser for spinal injury awareness. The event was hosted at St. Maria's Hospital. Adrian's new posting after his transfer, neither knew the other would be there. She wheeled onto the stage wearing a simple white dress and a confident smile. "When I lost my legs, I thought my life ended," she said into the mic. But it didn't. It just changed direction from the audience. Adrian froze mid-sip of coffee. That voice. It couldn't be. When she turned toward the crowd, their eyes met across the room. Two halves of a story they'd both tried to forget. After the applause faded, Elena signed a few posters before sensing a familiar presence behind her. "Still inspiring everyone in the room," Adrian said softly. She turned, heart racing. "Dr. Vega, it's Adrian," he corrected, smiling faintly. "You look happy." "I am, or I'm learning to be." There was a pause. 1,000 unsaid things hanging between them. "I'm proud of you," he finally whispered. "Thanks," she said, then added, "I watched an interview once. You said patients teach you more than textbooks. Did I make the syllabus?" He laughed quietly. "You rewrote it." They spent the evening talking at a corner table. No titles, no hospital walls, just two people catching up. He told her about his mother's failing health. She told him about her YouTube channel, Dancing Through Wheels, and the hundreds of kids who joined every weekend. At one point he said, "You changed lives, Elena." She smiled. "So did you." The rain outside softened to a drizzle. She looked at her phone. "I should go. Early class tomorrow." Let me drive you, he offered. She hesitated, remembering the last time she let him close. But something in his eyes felt sincere. Older, humbler. Okay, she said. The drive was quiet but warm. City lights reflecting off wet streets. Halfway home, traffic stalled near an underpass. On the sidewalk, a car had skidded into a light pole. Adrian pulled over instantly, doctor's instinct kicking in. Stay in the car, he told her, jumping out, but Elena followed, maneuvering her wheelchair through puddles. Inside the wrecked vehicle was a teenage boy. Dazed but conscious, Adrian checked his pulse. Elena soothed the boy, holding his hand until paramedics arrived. When they were finally back in his car, soaked and trembling, he looked at her with awe. 6 months ago, you couldn't stand being near hospitals. Tonight you saved someone's life. She wiped a tear. Maybe healing others is contagious, he laughed, that deep, rare laugh she hadn't heard since before everything fell apart. Later that night, outside her building, rain still whispering on the roof, Adrian said quietly, I never stopped thinking about you. Elena swallowed hard. You didn't have to. I did. Because every time I helped someone, I remembered you were the reason I wanted to. She looked away. We're from different worlds. Adrian. He leaned closer, voice soft. Maybe. But hearts don't check our some mess. For a moment, time slowed. Then she shook her head gently. Good night, doctor. And she rolled inside before he could answer. Adrian sat there, watching the light in her apartment window flicker on. The same way he used to watch her fight through pain in therapy. With awe, love, and a little bit of fear, he whispered to himself, Good night, Elena. If someone from your past reappeared just as you'd finally rebuilt your life, would you open the door again, or protect the peace you've fought so hard for? Tell me in the comments, because the next act will test Elena's heart in ways she never imagined. 2 weeks after that rainy night, Elena Morales' life started to change again. Her YouTube channel exploded after a local news clip went viral. Disabled woman and doctor save teen in highway crash. Millions watched the footage. Adrian kneeling by the boy, Elena in her wheelchair giving comfort and instructions like a pro. People commented things like, she's the real hero, and they'd make a great team. But as fame grows, so does gossip. One morning, Elena woke up to her phone buzzing non-stop. Dancer in love with her doctor? Fans spot chemistry at fundraiser. Another headline. Dr. Vega's secret romance with former patient sparks ethics debate. She froze, scrolling, reading the comments. Cruel, speculative, invasive. Some supported her, but others, not so kind. Of course she wants attention. Poor guy probably feels guilty. Her heart sank. At the hospital, Adrian faced his own nightmare. His supervisor called him in. Vega, she said sharply, you're under review for a potential ethics violation. Photos are circulating online. Adrian's throat tightened. We're not together. Maybe not, she said. But perception matters more than truth right now. He left her office with a warning letter and a storm brewing in his chest. That evening, he called Elena. We need to meet, he said quietly. They met at her favorite cafe, small, tucked away. The smell of cinnamon and comfort in the air. She looked tired, her usual glow dimmed. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said. I know, he replied. But I should have protected you from it. Elena shook her head. You can't protect me from people's opinions, Adrian. Only from my own self-doubt. He smiled sadly. That's what I love about you. The word love hung in the air like thunder before lightning. Her eyes softened. Adrian. But before she could answer, a voice interrupted. Cold and familiar. Dr. Vega. They turned to see Carmen, Elena's high school friend and current hospital PR manager. She crossed her arms. So it's true. The hero couple. Elena frowned. Carmen. This isn't what it looks like. Oh, I'm sure, Carmen said, tone dripping with sarcasm. You always did have a way of making men fall over themselves for you. Adrian stepped forward. That's enough. But Carmen smiled, dark and smug. You might want to watch your back, doctor. HR doesn't take kindly to secret romances, especially when the patient still has your last name in her file. She walked away, heels clicking. leaving tension heavy between them. Elena felt her chest tighten. She's going to ruin your career. Adrian looked at her with fierce calm. Let her try. Adrian, no. Elena, I lost you once because I stayed silent. I won't do it again. He reached for her hand. If I have to fight the hospital to tell the truth, that you changed me, that you're the reason I became a better doctor, then I will. Tears blurred her vision. You can't risk everything for me. Then it was never worth anything to begin with. Later that night, Elena returned home and sat staring at her reflection. She didn't see a broken patient anymore. She saw a woman who had survived, healed, and learned to stand up, even if her legs couldn't. So she opened her laptop and went live. Hey, everyone, she said to her thousands of followers. There's been a lot said about me and a certain doctor. Most of it's not true. But what is true is that people love to label others before knowing their story. She paused, eyes glistening. I was paralyzed. I was depressed. And a doctor named Adrian Vega believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That's not scandal. That's grace. If loving someone who helped me become whole again is wrong, then maybe the world needs more wrong. Her chat exploded with support. Messages flooded in. You tell them. Real love doesn't need approval. Adrian watched from his office, chest tight, pride swelling. The next morning, the hospital was buzzing. Her video had gone viral, not for scandal, but for strength. Instead of firing Adrian, the board commended him for inspiring hope. A statement was released. Street. Maria's hospital supports Dr. Vega and Ms. Morale's advocacy for disabled communities. He immediately drove to her apartment. When she opened the door, he didn't say a word. He just pulled her into his arms. She laughed through tears. What was that for? For standing up for both of us. I was just telling the truth. He smiled. And sometimes the truth saves people more than medicine ever could. If your love story was tested by the world, by judgment, rumors, and fear, would you hide it to protect it? Or fight for it no matter the cost? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because in the final act, fate will give Elena and Adrian a test neither of them sees coming. And it'll prove once and for all whether love really can heal the human heart. A few months later, sunlight streamed through the wide windows of Street. Maria's hospital. Now decorated for a charity gala every year. The hospital honored people who'd made extraordinary contributions to recovery and rehabilitation. This year, the spotlight belonged to Elena Morales, former patient, dancer, advocate, survivor. She rolled onto the stage in a glittering silver gown, a quiet confidence radiating from her. Her speech wasn't rehearsed. It didn't need to be. She looked out over the crowd, doctors, nurses, patients, her mother, and somewhere near the back, Adrian Vega, standing in the shadows, smiling like he finally belonged in the story again. People often ask me what the hardest part of recovery was. She began. It wasn't the pain. It was forgiving myself for believing that my life was over. But someone taught me that healing doesn't just happen in the body. It happens when you decide you're still worth loving. Her voice cracked slightly, but she smiled through it. And tonight, I just want to say thank you to everyone who saw me when I couldn't see myself. The crowd stood in applause. Cameras flashed. Adrian felt a lump in his throat he couldn't swallow down. This was her moment, and he wouldn't ruin it. Not with his heart trying to break free of his chest. After the event, he found her backstage, surrounded by well-wishers when they cleared out. She turned and smiled softly. You didn't tell me you'd be here, she said. Would have ruined the surprise, he teased. She laughed, shaking her head. You still think like a doctor. Always trying to manage my pulse. He grinned. It's impossible not to when it races every time I see you. She blushed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. You always say things that make me forget how to breathe. He stepped closer. That's ironic, coming from the woman who taught me how to feel. Silence settled. That warm, breathless kind, before a sudden commotion broke it. The hospital lights flickered. Someone shouted down the hall. Code blue. Room 204. Adrian's instincts kicked in. He turned, and then froze. Room 204. That was Mrs. Vega's room, his mother. He sprinted down the corridor, heart pounding. Elena following behind in her chair by the time he arrived. Nurses were already working over her. Cardiac arrest. 2 minutes, someone said. Let me through, Adrian ordered, slipping into the rhythm of CPR compressions. Voice steady but eyes glassy with panic. Elena stayed in the doorway, watching him fight. Not as a doctor, but as a son. Minutes felt like hours until finally. Beep, beep, beep. Her heart restarted. Adrian sagged in relief, tears streaking his face. Elena wheeled closer and placed a trembling hand on his arm. She's okay. He nodded, whispering, I almost lost her. Again, later that night, when his mother stabilized, Elena found Adrian sitting alone in the chapel, the glow of candlelight flickering against stained glass. You saved her, she said softly. He shook his head. No. We did. You were there. She smiled faintly. I didn't do anything. Yes, you did, he said, turning toward her. You reminded me what I was fighting for. He took her hand. Elena, my mother once told me, the greatest cure a doctor can give is love. I didn't understand what she meant until I met you. Tears filled her eyes. Adrian, he leaned forward, his voice barely a whisper. I love you, not as my patient, not as a survivor, but as the strongest woman I've ever known. She let out a shaky breath. You don't have to fix me. He smiled. I'm not trying to fix you, Elena. I'm trying to walk beside you. Or, if you'll let me, roll beside you. She laughed through tears. You're terrible at being romantic, he chuckled. And yet, you're still smiling. Weeks later, life settled into something almost magical. Elena moved into a new studio space where she taught dance and balance therapy to kids in wheelchairs. Adrian volunteered there every weekend. They didn't talk about the past much anymore. They didn't need to, because every look, every gentle touch, every quiet laugh between them already told the story. They'd both been broken once, but they found beauty in rebuilding each other one afternoon. A little girl in a wheelchair looked up at Elena and asked, Missy, can I ever dance like you? Elena knelt beside her and said, Sweetheart, you already do. You just don't hear the music yet. Adrian watched from the doorway, his heart melting all over again. He whispered to himself, She's the cure. As the sun set outside, Elena and Adrian stood together on the studio balcony, watching orange light spill across the skyline. She leaned against him, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel broken or incomplete. She just felt home. Do you ever think about what would have happened if we never met? She asked. He smiled. Then the universe would have just found another way. She looked up at him. That sounds like something out of a movie. He laughed softly. Maybe it is. Ours. And when he kissed her forehead, the world seemed to pause, as if even time itself wanted to stay and watch. Sometimes love doesn't come to rescue you. It comes to remind you that you were never beyond saving. Elena thought she'd lost her purpose. Adrian thought he'd lost his heart. But together, they learned that healing is never just physical. It's something that happens when two souls choose to see light in each other again. What do you think? Is love the ultimate medicine? Or does healing have to start within first? Drop your thoughts in the comments and remember, sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that remind us we're all still healing.
Thank you for watching all the way through. If this story moved you, the next one will surprise you in ways you won't expect. Go ahead and click the video on your screen. Your next story awaits.